you play the character. Is when I was looking at what Michael was doing, and I was saying, well, this is a character that is created through the voice. There is no movement in the mask. Then we had this, really thick, heavy foam, rubber, latexy mask, and it didn't move at all. You really had to work hard with your mouth behind it to get any sort of surface movement on the outside. So that actually informed the way that you had to talk. And when I got that mask on, I realised where Michael was coming from in many ways. You have to actually enunciate very, very clearly in order to get things through the mask out towards the camera and the microphone. So you've already got the beginnings of Davros there in the way this sort of staccato way of delivering things. Then you've got this claustrophobia, which sort of brings everything close into your face. So you've got that staccato way of talking, and then also the actual dynamic of the voice starts to change and go deeper. Then all you have to do is just get a bit of psychosis over the top, and Davros is there, and the doctor must be exterminated. It's that simple or as complicated as you like. So yeah, the mask is a very, very vital element because you actually have to work through it. And that is, in a way, the clue to Davros, that it is the voice that is the character, because physically you can't do much. Yep.
The robots are called the Daleks.
What about the Daleks? You've done a drawing of my Daleks. Excellent. And you are the doctor. At last. The doctor has drawn a Dalek. It's splendid. How do you make them? Well, the actual Daleks, I mean, people say the Dalek is the enemy. It's not the Dalek, it's the thing inside. It's the enemy. The Dalek is just a casing. It's basically a thing for travelling around in. Because when you genetically see, God, I know too much about Davros, don't I? This is kind of scary. I'm beginning to know a little too much about him. You have to, when he genetically re-engineered the car leads. Although I have to tell the truth now, the first Dalek was not a car lid. The first Dalek was a thal. He used a thal. The little creature inside has got to survive. It's got to be able to move around. It's also got to survive against poison gas and all that sort of stuff. So hence this basically travel transporter with added accoutrements, the gun to blow people away, the plunger to unblock toilets, and the thing on the top which can't see very much further than Davros can. So it's very easy for the doctor to hide around the back and get away from it. So yeah, so that's how the Dalek was made, Doctor. The Dalek sits inside the travel casing, which is why you can have all sorts of different travel casings, some that look a bit like Teletubbies, or shampoo holders, and others that look a little more, Second World War in origin. And we get different generations coming through as Davros decides he finds a bigger and better and brighter way of killing people. Other questions?
How did you get the part as Davros? How did it all start?
Well, I shot Michael Wisher and I buried David Goodison in a large slab of concrete. No, it was literally a case. I've been doing a series down at Southern TV called Radio Phoenix, where I was playing a sort of a dork of a disc jockey who was a bit sort of smeshy and nicey and it's all for charity, mate. And the director of that was a guy called Matthew Robinson, who was asked to direct Resurrection of the Daleks. And this came about purely by accident because Michael Wisher was meant to be doing Resurrection of the Daleks with a different director. But there was a big strike on in the UK at the time, broadcasting strike, which meant that everything was moved sideways by about 3 months. By which time Michael Wisher had come to Australia to do some stage work or something or other. The other director had moved on, so Matthew Robinson was asked to direct the episode. I'd just been working with Matthew, and he knew that I could possibly do something like this, and asked me to take it over. It was as simple or complicated as that. He literally rang me up. He said, "Do you know anything about the Daleks?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you know anything about Davros?" I said, "I haven't a clue." "Who's he?" Because I'd stopped watching Doctor Who in Patrick Troughton's time. Right. Hartnell and Troughton were my doctors, and then I stopped watching it because I was doing other things at university and elsewhere. So he sat me down in front of Genesis and said, "That's Davros." I said, "Oh yeah, kind of vague recollection of that might be something I may have seen at some point." But yeah, so we went from there. It was as quick as that. The easiest job I've ever got, and the one that I thought was going to be for 2 weeks has lasted, nigh on 40 years. So it's a good one. Yeah.
What was your favourite Davros moment?
My favourite Davros moment. It's difficult. It depends on a funny moment or a horrid moment or any moment. I think one of my favourite Davros moments. I don't know if any of you listened to the Big Finish audios. The very first one I did was called Davros, which came about through me having an interview with the Sci-Fi magazine and Gary Russell having an interview with the same magazine at the same time, and both interviews came out at the same time, and we both seemed to be saying exactly the same thing about the Daleks and Davros and the Doctor. And so he rang me up and said, "I think we're on the same page here. Would you like to do a Big Finish one, but without the Daleks?" And we said, "Yeah." And the opening, 2.5 minutes of that is just basically a monologue from Davros. And I got the script and I read it and thought, yeah, that's good, that's interesting, yeah, fine. And I like the stuff that was carried on then later with the Doctor and all of that. So we got into the studio and it was day one, minute one, sit down, got the bit of level from the voice, because obviously I was doing the voice myself, and then they overlaid it a bit in the box. And we just took it in one take, and we moved on. And I thought it was nice. It was only when I listened back to it, I thought, gosh, that's scary, it's really good. So I now tell people, if you're going to buy this CD, don't listen to it on your own in the dark. Certainly not the first couple of minutes. But the thing I like about it specifically was, it was kind of a explanation in small of the pain that Davros endures constantly, every second of his existence. And it's the pain that actually keeps him going, and makes him refuse to die. It generates the hatred and the revenge within him. And for me, that was a key at that point, which obviously we then expanded on a little later on. We got into I, Davros and things like that. So we saw that being expanded. And that was a great thing about the Big Finish. We could do in there what we couldn't do, or they didn't do, in the telly, because they didn't have time to, is explore those other areas of the character and where he come from and why he was doing particular things. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Good.
It's interesting you mentioned those, because Davros is seen as essentially the Hitler of the Doctor Who universe, except for Let's Kill Hitler, because there was an actual Hitler. But anyway,
yeah.
Do you find that depth and that pain makes it easier to sympathise with Davros?
It was not a case of sympathy. I mean, people sort of say, "Oh, it must be, either fun or horrid to have to play an evil person." And I said, "Well, wait, I go into philosophy then. What is your definition of evil? People aren't born evil, are they? I don't think so. Something happens along the road that may push them in one direction or another, which the rest of us may find unacceptable. But to the person themselves, they wouldn't do it if they thought it was unacceptable." And you take something like Revelation, Davros solves the problem of starvation in the universe. Okay, he uses dead bodies to do it. So what's the problem with that? They're dead. They don't know. As far as he's concerned, it's a perfectly acceptable way of doing things. There's everyone else that says, no, that's evil. That's crossed the line. But because of the way he is, he doesn't see it as evil. He sees it as doing good, of actually, creating something. He sees the change of the Khalids from, the Aryan race they were, into these squirmy creatures that sit in things, as being right, because it's the only way they were going to survive. And survive the war that was going on, and it was an unwinnable war. God, I do know too much about that, wasn't it? I think I better go. It's literally that focus.
What was your funniest moment?
My funniest moment? I think one of my funniest moments was when I was coming downstairs in my house, and my two sons were then 5 and 7. And it was just after Resurrection of the Daleks came out, and Davros was suddenly appearing on screen in his cryogenic chamber, and Philip, my youngest son, I could hear him from the other side of the door going, "Oh look, it's my dear lovely daddy." I am doing something wrong with my children. I really am. In Doctor Who, funniest moment was actually probably with Colin when we were doing Revelation of the Daleks, and Davros had his hand shot off, or his fingers shot off. And so there was a shot there of it blowing off, and then they had to do a reverse reaction shot on the Doctor. Well, they did this blowing off, and all the fingers went all over the floor, these polystyrene fingers that were blown off. And when they cut round to Colin, he snaffled one of these fingers from the floor, and it was up his nose. Sadly, you didn't see that on screen. I said, no, we'll take that one again, shall we?
Okay. Did you have trouble controlling Davros's wheelchair during the first few days of shooting?
I've always had trouble controlling Davros's wheelchair. I have to point out to you, people think, oh, it's great being this thing that whizzes around. I was sitting in what is effectively the base of a supermarket trolley, covered in 4x2 timber, with two massive 12-volt car batteries in the back, and a little hole in the floor, and I'm having to drag this along with my toes, and not look as though I'm wobbling all over the place. It was incredibly hard work, it really was. And that's the way the BBC worked, you know, you had all this stuff there, and I was bolted into it, so there's no way of getting out for a pee break, you know, and they do a shot and say, right, okay, on to the next set, and they'd all go, and I'd be sitting in the thing saying, excuse me, hello, oh, you've all gone, right, okay, what am I doing here, you know. So it was really tough, and also, like a supermarket trolley, you try to push a supermarket trolley in a straight line? It don't work, do they? You get one wheel that goes and it goes over there, you know, and you're trying to go there, so you've got this constant battle, you know. I had, you know, thighs like Thor by the time I'd finished. Next one.
When the new series had Davros in it, were you offered the part at all?
No?
And did he, the guy who did play Davros, did he actually talk to you about how to act the role?
No? Simple as that. I believe Graham Harper wanted me to do it, but he was overridden by one of the producers.
Hi there, I was just wondering when you do the radio plays if you have to do anything physically to recreate the Davros voice, the physicality of the part like you mentioned in your last answer.
Well, apart from getting dressed up in it as I always do, you know, sitting in the chair. No, it is, I suppose it's, I've done it now, I've done Davros 17 times on telly and audios and stage and everything. So it's a bit like an old pair of carpet slippers that I slip into, you know, when I know where I am with it. And like any radio, you find a way of being either physically at the mic. I tend to sit down, but not sit down. I tend to have a high stool, and I'll perch on the stool while I'm doing it, because it gives me a sort of centre from which I can then deliver into the mic. But apart from that, no. The voice, as I say, I produce, and then they put it through a very slight ring modulation in the box to produce the effect. So, no, I suppose I've been doing it too long, as you say. Little wonder the BBC recast it. Yeah.
I have a question.
Doctor, excellent.
I pity you, Davros. I pity you.
Do not pity me, Doctor. Die!
I do have a serious question, though.
Go on then. Really?
Revelation of the Daleks. You had such wonderful guest cast: Clive Swift, Eleanor Bron, William Gaunt, and lovely Alexei Sale. What was it like to work with some of those wonderful character actors?
It's great. But it's interesting. We were having a discussion upstairs just now about people working and how they react to working with other actors. And actually, you'll find a lot of actors and very famous actors are probably just in awe, as much in awe of the actor they're working with as the actor they're working with is in awe of them. And you sometimes have to get over that hurdle before you get on and just get on with the work. 9 times it's very, very workmanlike, but it's a delight because there's a shorthand between actors who have done a lot and are good at their craft. You don't have to say anything. It's automatic. You see it in the other person's eye. You sense what they're going to give to you, and you give it back. it was difficult for me because Davros can't relate. The mask prevents it. And it's very interesting the reaction of people to me in the rehearsal room, and I'm not in the mask or anything, and then when I put the mask on. It's not that they back off, it's just that they kind of don't make any eye contact, and you suddenly start, you suddenly are very aware of people who are in wheelchairs, and I know this because I have 2 stepdaughters who are, wheelchair users, and that people just talk over the top of their heads as if they're not there. Or refuse to really engage because they don't want to get into the discussion about what's the matter with you, because they feel that they're either going to offend them or it's fairly obvious what's the matter with them and why are they asking this stupid question, or asking it in a patronising way. So you get that kind of strange thing with another actor when you're in character as opposed to being in rehearsal. But when you're working with people like Eleanor Bron and Clive Swift and William Gaunt, wonderful. You just get this zing from people, and it's a real delight, There's no kind of stop-start. I mean, I have worked with actors, and I'm not going to say who, where it's sometimes a bit like playing squash against rice pudding, You whack the ball up, and then just go, bop, bop. Okay, pick the ball up again, whack, bop. And you keep on doing it. But there are, other actors you just go, bang, it all flows, it all runs perfectly. Another one, yes, where are we?
France.
Ah, hello, Christine.
Hello.
See, I recognise you, remember your name?
Thank you.
I got you all down in my book, actually.
Who was your favourite doctor to work on television, and was that the same with radio? So like for the audio?
But the favourite doctor I worked with on television? I didn't have a favourite. I mean, I have an ongoing relationship with Colin because we worked a lot together. And Sylvester and I worked together before in theatre, so we've known each other from way back from the days when he did Anne Campbell's Roadshow and was stuffing ferrets down his trousers, And he taught me to play the spoons, He was a great spoon teacher, to get you to teach you to learn the spoons. So I haven't really got a favourite, but I've worked more probably with Colin than any of the others. So we have perhaps more of a shorthand and sense of humour that we currently jointly enjoy than with Peter. I've only worked with Paul once, and Peter a couple of times, not just on telly but also audios, and a film, in which none of us were Doctor Who characters, but it was a thing called The Devil of Winterbourne, which was me playing a detective inspector and Caroline John playing this sort of secret society head investigating thing, and Peter Davison playing the headmaster of this school where there was all this devil stuff going on, and also Louise Jameson was in it as well. So yeah, but no, Colin, I suppose I have great fun with Colin. We have great fun together and send each other up and take the mickey a lot, and as I say, we have that extra shorthand that perhaps we haven't with the others. But who knows, they might get Davros together with some of the other doctors on audio before long. I'm saying nothing.
Hi there. Over here.
Hello, oh, hi.
You also appeared in Doctor Who as another character in a Cyberman story with Colin Baker. So
Yeah.
what was that like?
Playing Russell, playing a human being, as it were. It was great fun. I mean, it was lovely to, not have to get into all that schlep, and also to be playing with Maurice Colburn again, who was such a fantastic actor, and such a lovely man for the, the fact that he played villains all the time, from the days of gangsters in Birmingham. He was such a nice guy, he was just into fishing. He'd go off and quietly go to a reservoir and fish half the day, if he really enjoyed things. So it was good, it was good fun, but sadly I got killed at the end of the first act, which brought about this, I seem to sort of generate things in Doctor Who that then have to be incorporated later on. I did it in Revelation when the Daleks flew, because up till then they hadn't flown. Tom had climbed the step ladder to get away from them, and made a big thing about it. But in Revelation we had this situation where Davros had to get down these steps to attack William Gaunt, and they were working out, we'll bring you down a ramp here, we'll go here, and Graham was working out all these shots, and I just sort of quietly in the background saying, "Excuse me, sir, but why couldn't he just fly down?" And Graham and JMT went, Yeah, why not? Okay, right, put him a bit blue, right, we'll do this, and suddenly the Daleks and Davros could fly. And the same with the Cybermen, when Russell gets killed at the end by, I have to say, a rather limp-wristed Cyberman. You know, he sort of came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Die, you brute." And it took about 8 goes until he finally nearly took my head off and I died. Only to be told they've got to die again because I'd fallen. As they panned down, they could see the cord running, the power cord running from the back of the TARDIS control to the back wall where all the power's coming in. So could you just die and cover the cord, Terry? I said, yeah, okay, the cord's 16 feet long, I'm 5 foot there. You know, how much of the cord do you want me to cover? But then if you watch that, the end of the first episode, that's it. Beginning of the second, when they reprise that whole section, there's no body. Body's gone. Because the TARDIS has got this self-cleaning circuit. As soon as a dead body hits the floor, it goes. And this self-cleaning circuit was designed and built by the BBC Accounts Department. Because had my body been there, I'd have been paid another fee for being in that episode. So that was the way it goes. But no, I had good fun with that. It was really good. Yeah. And that was obviously the first time I worked with Colin. And then we then took that on into Revelation later. We have another one. Yes, up at the back there.
Recently listened to Davros.
Yeah.
Really humanized Davros. Obviously didn't make him out to be a good guy, but really humanized him.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you first read for that one?
Well, we talked about it, Gary and I, for some time, because we felt that there needed to be some explanation of who Davros was, where he'd come from, what the journey was. Because as I was saying earlier, nobody's born evil. Something happens. So we had to see the journey of a young 15-year-old lad in a very exclusive and very Aryan society, a very privileged family that he came from, how he progressed through that society to the point where he became this monster who created the Daleks, and the whole twist in his mind into the way he became. And I said, well, there's got to be some hook, there's got to be some drive, some motor that's got to give an underlay for that. And talking about it, we came to a conclusion that in fact, Davros, as an ordinary child, probably had a level of autism, like Asperger's syndrome, where he had this phenomenally brilliant brain, brilliant mind, totally capable of that, but total inability to involve himself socially with anybody else.